walk back to the road as I pass between the site of Kinnerton station platforms, but before I leave, let's take a quick look at our progress so far. Now, if you remember, we began at Chester General in part 1, before heading north, then west towards Wales and Saltney Ferry Station. Part 2 saw me head southwest to Broughton and Bretton, which then brings us up to the here and now and Kinnerton. Heading southwest from there, I'll continue to explore the route. Alas, the track bed isn't accessible for most of the route between here and Hope and Pen-y-ffordd, the next station, but there are a number of bridge sites, so I'll visit those to see if anything remains. So without anything more to discover here at Kinnerton station, we'll leave the site behind, but before we do, we'll just cross over if I can and show you. So there's our station site over there, and if I lift the camera above the trees, you can see the line of trees going off in a southwesterly direction across that field, and that is the track bed on a raised embankment in those trees. Well, I'm walking along this quiet country lane just outside Higher Kinnerton, known as the Green. As you just saw, we've got our track bed, which is on a high embankment in those trees, and at this point clearly it's been removed, but there was a bridge here. Now, I've had a little bit of a mooch around in the undergrowth, and if you look around, you've got some brickwork. There's some more brickwork there, some stone, there's some scattered there. I don't know whether this bridge was made of stone or made of brick, and there's no real way of telling today, because if you look at the high embankments, it's been totally removed. There's no evidence of that bridge whatsoever, and even on this side you can see right on top of the embankment up there, but it's been sloped back, and any evidence of the bridge has been completely removed. So I don't know whether that stonework, brickwork back there is anything to do with the former bridge that used to cross the Green here at Kinnerton. If you look in here though, I've just spotted what looks like the remains of an old telegraph pole. So that's a potential reminder. You've got the embankment just there, so it's right next to it. And then moving on the west side, well, I think here you can see our embankment there, and impressive as it goes off into the Welsh countryside. And indeed, over here we've got more brick, more stonework, and that is shaped, so it could just be part of a farmer's use, but it could also be where the part of the old bridge. And I've also just noticed here an old sleeper still intact with its pins, so that's pretty decent. So another overbridge gone. This is Bennett's Lane, still in Kinnerton. Our line would have come across right in front of us. There's the embankment for the line up there, still very high. In fact, I think it's higher. So where you got those bushes, you can just see the top of the embankment. So I would have gone across on a diagonal. There's a couple of sleepers there, look. So I would have gone across on a diagonal. So here's the bank on the other side, but what's interesting about this part is there's a little footpath up here, and you can get onto the track bed. So this footpath has been cut into the embankment. You can see how high it is because we're still climbing. Still got a few more feet to go. There's our track bed there, a good 6 foot from where I'm standing now. So we just turn this corner and then we'll be on the track bed. And I'm getting a bit of a sweat on here. So our line would have gone through there, across Bennett Lane Bridge, and I'm now on the track bed. And immediately we've got some stones which can only really be ballast left over from the railway. It's quite a bit there as well. And also immediately I notice we're climbing more ballast, lots of ballast in fact. So let's follow this path and see what we can find. So as we approach the end of this short section of footpath on the track bed, you can notice now we're actually in a cutting. It was on a very high embankment, 200 yards that way, so it's gone from high embankment to deep cutting now. But our line would have gone off through where those nettles and bushes are. We're going to rise up now because we've got an actual bridge still in place. This is Main Road on the right on the edge of Kinnerton here, and it's a lovely bridge. 2 arches made of brick. Let's go through this gate, which I think would stop a dinosaur by the looks of things. So look at that. Isn't that cracking? Unfortunately it's a bit shielded by this tree, but you can see it's blocked off at the end because that's somebody's property, so our track bed is obliterated directly on the other side, and you can see it's full of water. So even if I could get down there, which I can't, and this is the best view I can get, but even from here you can see it's a wonderful bridge. Let's walk up on top. So I'll stick the camera over the edge. Don't think the view's going to be great, if anything. And as I suspected, it's just vegetation on the other side. Let's just quickly pop over there. So there's that. It's almost like a dam, isn't it? And our line would have continued in that direction. We're out of Kinnerton now. This is Bramley Lane, and our line would have gone directly beneath here. Safe to say there is no evidence whatsoever of a bridge here today. Lower Mountain Road on the very eastern edge of Pen-y-ffordd. Pen-y-ffordd? I'm going to go for Pen-y-ffordd. I'm going to try and be Welsh. Apologies if that's wrong, but I'm going to stick with Pen-y-ffordd. Anyway, this is Lower Mountain Road, and our line would have swept from in that direction, coming under a bridge here. Once again, unfortunately, there is absolutely no evidence other than the rise in the ground there and the drop there that there was ever a bridge here. No stonework, nothing. So it's been filled in both sides. The only other clue is we've got a bit of a gap here. If we look down there, I mean, you can definitely see the much lower ground, the slope leading up to where the bridge, it's all been filled in and erased from history. But our line would have come from that direction, and it would have swept going northwest that way into Pen-y-ffordd. So after that bridge fest, or rather lack of bridges, I'll just give some clarification to their locations, and to do that I'll turn to, as always, the National Library of Scotland. And starting with the modern overhead, we can clearly see Higher Kinnerton there to the right side of the view. Now let's add the line, and it's worth noting that Kinnerton Station is out of sight on this view, and it's off to the northeast of the line. So if I add the bridge sites that I've just visited, it'll give a clearer idea of what's going on here. So I'm now going to head west from here, the bridge site of Lower Mountain Road, and we're just on the eastern edge of Pen-y-ffordd. We've managed to access the track bed a very short distance, probably 20-30 yards that way is Lower Mountain Road, where the bridge was but isn't today. But managed to access a very short section of the track bed, and when I say short I mean very short. There's nothing really to see here. We've got Terrace Lane heading into Pen-y-ffordd over there, and the only thing we've got what look like the original fence posts and the original wire still attached to the fence posts. That's pretty much the only thing of interest that I've found, but at least it's access to a very small piece of the track bed. So we've managed to find another footpath coming off of Terrace Lane, which heads towards the railway line, or the ex-railway line I should say. Hi dude. Now the first thing, look at this fantastic concrete post. I think that is part of the original occupation crossing that would have been here. I've seen those before in their various guises, and that's exactly what it looks like. Now immediately you get next to the track bed, you've got a number of things that have come up here. First of all, we've got quite a bit of ballast, which gets even more up there, but secondly we've got another sleeper here forming today's post. But more interesting than that, I've noticed this LM. Now I don't know what that is, but could it be a boundary marker for London Midland? This was London Midland region under British Rail. It's possible. So going past those, here's our ballast, lots and lots of it, you can see. And then this is a private road. Our footpath continues up there. This is our track bed heading west into Pen-y-ffordd now, and unfortunately, I mean, you can see private land. So we're not gonna go down there. We'll have a quick look over here. We've got more ballast, and then into a field where we've got a couple of sleepers acting as fence posts. But that's quite a few finds, and if anyone knows about that LM post, I reckon it's a London Midland boundary marker, but if anyone knows for sure, please let me know. So in front of us we've got the track bed coming from Chester going westwards towards Mould. Unfortunately it's no public right of way, so we're not going to trespass. But in front of us on this side we have the former Hope and Pen-y-ffordd station, and that's this white building here next to the main road. Obviously today it's a private residence, but it's still definitely got the air of railway station, and as you can see the owner is clearly a rail enthusiast. And as we move up to the front of the building, the owner has very kindly allowed us access to his garden. Before we look at the station, let's just turn to the map, in this case dated 1900. And here is the station, and the first thing that you may notice is that it's simply called Hope. And that's because when opened in 1849 by the Mould Railway Companies, Hope Station opened with it. And the Pen-y-ffordd suffix wasn't added until 1912, presumably so as not to confuse it with the nearby Hope station on the Bidston to Wrexham line, and also Hope in Derbyshire. Much smaller and still relatively rural at the time of closure in 1962, no doubt this station will be popular if still in use today. Well, I'm on Hope and Pen-y-ffordd station, and a huge thank you to Ray, the homeowner, who's very kindly given us access to his garden. And as you can see, it's paid dividends. We got the platforms here. I'm in the track bed area as we speak, and we've got the station house to our left. This is the mould bound platform here, and over here we got the Chester bound platform, still with the edging stones in place. Obviously, because it's a private garden, some renovations have taken place. What an absolute gem to be allowed in here, and it's been done up so beautifully in the theme of the railway. Here on the down platforms, the buildings are almost the same as they were when trains called here, with just the canopy filled in to create a conservatory, as you can see. Whilst looking east along the platform towards Kinnerton, and I wonder if the platforms are extant beyond this garden, as they would have stretched much further that way. Looking across to the up platform and the greenhouse is the approximate site of the small waiting shelter, design of which we saw at Broughton and Bretton station. Crossing the gap between platforms, and let's have a look at this wonderfully restored signal. Don't think it's contemporary of this line, as it's a Great Western lower quadrant displaying a distant and stop arm, but nevertheless it's great to see. While down here is a London and North Western Railway boundary marker, which could well be contemporary and very different to the London Midland one I just found east of here. This 1956 photo looking towards Mould shows an upbound train with the footbridge and station buildings clearly shown. Turning west and above me would have been the footbridge giving access to the platforms, while on the opposite side of this hedge is the main road and the site of the former level crossing. So moving west away from the wonderfully restored Hope and Pen-y-ffordd station, our track would have come through, as you can see, the hedge where it is today. So, well, probably to my right about here, and would have come through here, disappearing off into these bushes in front of me, where you've now got a housing estate. However, I was just having a look through the fence here, and luckily or unluckily these bushes have been burnt away, and it's revealed a bit of a gap. And if you look through there, we've got some sort of a structure. So some brick over there, some brick there, and I think that's another brick facing there. So clearly it's a structure, a building of some description. Now what I'm thinking, could this possibly be part of the old signal box that was here at Pen-y-ffordd? And the only way to work that out is to look on our maps. Here is the map of 1900, with our station at this point still known as just Hope. And here is our signal box, so let's mark that, and then what we'll do is we'll return to the present overhead view. Well, that's quite emphatic really, with the signal box clearly being located right in the middle of the road junction. So as for the brick bases that I was looking at behind the trees, it would appear to be a bit of a mystery and maybe not railway related at all. Zooming out, and the view shows Pen-y-ffordd with the station clearly marked. So we'll now head west again, but not too far, as despite the urbanisation, this once countryside area is now houses, and it's right in the middle of those where more clues to the railway can be found.
Come down a path on this housing estate to the west of Pen-y-ffordd station, and I really didn't expect to find anything. However, I'm standing on our track bed, so it would have come from Pen-y-ffordd in that direction, come across, and these trees denote the track bed going west. And right in front of me I found a lovely relic, and it's a pair of gateposts which would have held gates on a railway crossing. We got this one here and we got that one over there, still with a bracket attached. And if we look at the pair of them, imagine our gate sat on those and our track going across in front of us from left to right or right to left. So even in the most unexpected places you can still find some brilliant relics from the railway.
If I refer to the map once more for clarification, here is where I found the crossing posts, and here on the 1900 map you can clearly see that it was indeed a crossing, wide enough maybe by the looks of things to have been suitable for road vehicles.
On the west side of Pen-y-ffordd now, and this is the horrendously busy A550. Can't tell you how frightening it was walking down here. Anyway, our line would have come out of these trees, so Pen-y-ffordd is just the other side of those trees. The line would have come out of there, across this road, and then into this clearing of trees here. So if we look at that line of trees going from left to right, that is the current Wrexham to Bidston railway line, still in use. Our line would have gone directly in front of us through these trees, and where our line and that line met is the site of Hope low level station, and then on the Wrexham to Bidston line the corresponding Hope high level station.
Using the drone, I've flown it to a point between where the two platforms once were, and apart from raised banks either side, you can see that there's no sign of the low-level station today. Well, the bridge which carries the Wrexham to Bidston Borderlands line, which you should be able to see directly in front of you, that's reported to have been filled in. Opened in 1867 as Hope Junction for trains serving the high level station, and Hope Passenger Exchange for those serving the low level. It was renamed to Hope Exchange in 1878, bringing both stations under the same name. With no external access, the station existed purely as an interchange between the Wrexham Mould and Connors Quay Railway and its route from Wrexham to the Wirral, and the London and North Western Railways line between Chester Mould and Denbigh. 1953 saw another name change, which brought about Hope High Level and Hope Low Level. But just 5 years later, in 1958, and with book services stopping at stations dwindling, Hope Low Level closed. Despite the high level line remaining to this day, with no exchange of passengers to cater for, the high level station also closed. This modern view clearly shows current Borderlands line running from bottom left to top right of the picture. And to give an idea of how it all would have looked, let's superimpose the lines and the former station's platforms. Now, in particular, it shows the location of the former footpath link between the two lines of the higher level and lower level platforms. Now, this footpath I believe still exists, and I've heard that the original fencing still also exists, albeit highly overgrown. We can also see the now blocked up bridge where our Chester Mould and Denbigh line would have crossed beneath the current Borderlands line. Here is the 1897 map, and it's interesting to note that while the line from Mould Junction to Hope Junction was lifted in 1970, this spur allowing movements from the high level to the low level was still used up until 1983 for trains to the Synthite Chemical Works just west of Mould. This line was also lifted just 2 years later in 1985. And now take a look at this embankment on the map. This was another spur proposed to enable trains to run from Mould to Connors Quay. By 1888 it was almost fully constructed, but due to political wrangling by the Wrexham, Mould and Connors Quay Railway's new owners, it was never implemented. While down here appears to be the earthworks to a third spur, which to the best of my knowledge was also never implemented.